Don't worry. There's nothing to worry about with him in China.
All right. Well, I don't know if maybe he's somehow akin to Trump, but our dear own New York Governor Andrew Cuomo is in quite a firestorm, Mr. Hussong.
You mean P.T. Barnum Jr.?
P.T. Barnum Jr. is in quite a firestorm. He hasn't had a press conference in 5 days, something like that.
It's a record for the last year.
He likes to hear himself talk. So, yeah, it's shocking that he's nowhere to be seen. So I'm sure you guys have heard by now. Melissa DeRosa, who is one of Cuomo's, if not Cuomo's top aide, I believe she might be listed as his secretary, but she's been with the governor and the governor's administration from the beginning and is integral in communicating his message. She was caught. I don't know if a hot mic is the right thing, but the message was leaked in what was a private conversation,
closed door meeting with the other Democrats,
with the Democrat leadership.
Office.
Yeah, and so she was reported using the words "we froze." He's like, and basically we froze. And this was basically in reference to the DOJ, the Department of Justice, was doing an investigation of nursing homes. And instead of giving the data, the information to anybody who was asking for it publicly through Freedom of Information request, instead of doing that, they basically stonewalled the federal investigation by hiding that information, the true nursing home numbers, for months. I mean, we talked to Bill Hammond episode 14. So this is episode 37. That's 24 weeks ago. So this has not been new news, if you will, but it's finally been confirmed that the administration has done a coordinated effort to cover up the total number of nursing home deaths in the state while bragging the whole while. So, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not sure what this does to Cuomo, but this is pretty damning.
I mean, I think your description of it was actually flattering for what he actually did. I mean, so we touched on this last week. Let's back up a little bit. Cuomo had the executive order that mandated people going to nursing homes. Eventually, that received some pushback. It was the order of the land for 6 weeks. And then he, in July, on July 6th, the Department of Health released the findings of its own investigation where it said that that executive order did not cause more deaths, did not cause more infections, was following Department of Medicare and Medicaid Services guidelines, and was not really the law anyway. That seemed odd. And so then it turned out they kept pointing out, like, well, New York State's 38th and 36th in nursing home deaths, so we didn't do anything wrong in nursing homes. And then people kept responding by saying, yeah, but you're not counting them the same as everybody else. You're counting them differently. Like, this is not real data. Everybody else is using, if you got it in a nursing home, go to a hospital and die, you count as a nursing home death. You are looking at it and saying, if you leave the nursing home and die in the hospital after getting COVID in the nursing home, that doesn't count. Look, I don't care which way you count them, but you have to be consistent across the board if you're actually going to compare. They didn't. They use those numbers to compare themselves to other states and say, see, we don't have a problem. Well, that's nonsense. Of course you have a problem. And the other issue with this was going back to last March, February, March, you and I were talking about this at that time. And it didn't make sense to me the data was so obvious from the beginning of, guys, this is for old people. This is disproportionately affecting the very elderly, and nursing homes are going to be what causes all these deaths. And every media outlet came out like, it hits everybody the same. It doesn't matter about your age. It's coming for you. And I'm still looking at the data from all around the world and going, that's not true. Like, there are exceptions, yes, and we have to make sense of those, but this is crazy. So then it was hey, if this is really, we've got 35,000 people that have died in New York State. How many, what was it? 15,000 of them ended up being nursing home deaths. But we're reporting 6? That was what we were reporting early on, was 6,000?
I think the final total was like 9,400 or 9,500 was their final total official.
That was only nursing homes.
Right.
If you include assisted living centers and everything else, which is what every other state, again, does when they're releasing this data, you're close to 15,000. Oh, yeah. So you're like, look, nursing homes, assisted living, and all that combined makes up less than 1% of the overall population. And they're responsible for well over, now it's roughly half of all COVID-related deaths. Like, guys, we know where the problem is. We know where the risk is. But by covering up this information and acting like that's not real, like no, well, it's only like 20% that are in nursing homes. That's still off. But you're covering up data, and we use that data to make real-time public policy decisions. So now everything about this was the cover-up was worse than the crime. That's my biggest issue with it, is the cover-up was worse than the crime. I can excuse the executive order. I genuinely can. It was a panic. It was crazy times. We didn't want to overwhelm the health system. That was the really, really big nervous factor. Because remember, when we originally shut down, it was 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Flatten the curve. It was, we can't have everybody get this virus all at once because it'll overwhelm everything. So what we need to do is flatten that out. The same number of people were going to get infected, but we needed to spread it out over a longer period of time, because at that point, we understood, epidemiologists understood, everybody acknowledged you cannot stop a virus through non-pharmaceutical interventions. Not with masks, not with distancing, not with business closures, nothing. You can't actually stop it. But if we shut everything down, we can spread it out so that we don't overwhelm the health system and cause more preventable deaths. Remember? That made sense. And now here we are on month 12 of 2 weeks to flatten the curve in our state. I don't know when we lost our mind and forgot that we can't actually stop a virus in any meaningful way with all of this nonsense that we're trying, but we did. So what we've known for 100 years is we can. It's aerosol, it spreads, it's too thin. It's wearing a mask is basically like having a chain link fence trying to stop sand. Will it stop some? Sure. Will it stop enough to be meaningful? No, of course not. That's craziness. But don't worry, 2 chain link fence back to back, that'll help. Yeah, it'll be 80% more effective, because 80% more than 1% is 1.5. Like, great job, everybody. Good work here. God, I can't stand this stuff. But anyways, back to Cuomo. So this guy's actively covering it up. And he had the nursing home order. It was in effect for 6 weeks, which was inexcusable because they weren't even tracking nursing home deaths separately until like mid-April.
Yeah, and some states had the same order and rescinded it earlier than
immediately.
New York.
In some states like Florida, which everybody wants to dump on, immediately came out, looked at the data, and went, protect the nursing homes. Everything else comes after nursing homes, because if it gets into the nursing homes, we're going to lose so many people, especially with Florida's population. All the PPE goes there. Everything goes there. Protect the nursing homes first and foremost. And again, for all of you Cuomo defenders, New York State did not get COVID first. It was like the 14th state in the country where it hit. And I got it. It's population density. No, it's not. There is absolutely no correlation between population density of a given city and the effects of COVID. New York City is only a densely populated city by the standards of America. Across the world, it's not even in the top 50 of the most densely populated cities in the world. So please, look at the actual data. The conduct of this administration is inexcusable. Then to turn around and absolutely, they wouldn't release the number. And Bill Hammond of the Empire Institute came out and said, freedom of information request, give us this number. Now, Bill Hammond is not like Shawn and I. He's not like a big, this is all craziness and we're insane. He was a pro-mask guy. He was a pro-distancing guy. He was all in on all of this stuff. And he was tremendously upfront and honest about it when we interviewed him. It was great. But even he was acknowledging, look, we need to make policy decisions off of the actual information. And if you're giving us factual information, we can make good decisions. If you're covering up information, we're going to make that policy. So please give it to us. They came out and said, well, we're going to find it. What do you mean you're going to find it? You have it all available. It comes in real time. What do you mean you're going to find it? Well, we need 6 more weeks to get an intern and give them 12 hours on a spreadsheet. They'll have it done. No, we need 6 weeks. Got to double check. Okay. Then they came out later on and were like, yeah, we got to triple check this and verify. Like, Dr. Zucker, this is awful, because there is no way the leading doctor in the Department of Health in our state was unaware that nursing home deaths were being counted differently here than everywhere else. There is no way you were unaware of that fact, or the fact that it would have a significant impact on the data. And yet they paraded out there every single day. And if anybody dared ask them about it, they were like, well, it's just a political attack from the right. Andrew Cuomo went on his brother's show on CNN every night for a week while this order was in effect and never got asked about it one time. Andrew Cuomo went on every show known to man. Nobody asked him about it. Not one person. Everybody was like, oh, Ron DeSantis over here in Florida, but we've got America's governor. The guy won an Emmy, the best-selling book, and he was nominated as Times Person of the Year. All the while, he was covering up this information. And now what was so damning about what was the secretary's name, the aide's name?
Melissa
DeRosa came out and said to the Democrats, hey, guys, we're really sorry. We know that was politically damning for you to have to deal with, but we were really worried that we were going to get investigated by the Department of Justice because Trump sent a letter from his Department of Justice saying, give us this data, and we froze. We didn't know what to do with it because we didn't want to give them any data. Now, she was sort of alluding to the fact that she viewed this as a political attack from a right-leaning Department of Justice, and that justified them, and this is what she openly admitted, was covering up the data that they knew was damning. So because they were worried about what they viewed as a political attack, what most of us would just call the Department of Justice's job, I don't know, of investigating when things like this happen, they actively and intentionally hid the numbers. They covered them up. They didn't release them because they were damning. And they covered them up for 7 months. They've had this information for so long, it's unbelievable. This is inexcusable. This is unjustifiable. And if this man is not impeached, it's a joke to even have it as an option. The fact that Donald Trump was impeached for that nonsense on January 6th, Andrew Cuomo actively covered up factual data in the midst of a pandemic that could have helped shape public policy. And my guess is he's not going to be impeached because we live in New York and that's the way it goes. Like, this is why impeachment actually exists, because this guy put his own political career ahead of everybody else on the factual basis of we need real data to determine this. But don't worry, I'm sure that the business closures had nothing to do with his ego and was all based on the science. I'm sure the mask mandate, same thing. It's not just him making sure his own political career and that he gets to be this savior of the country. No, I'm sure that part is legitimate.
Yeah, I don't know how he survives this long term. Like, there's zero. I mean, his